Has Caitlin Clark changed the game between men's and women's sports? A Vox reader asks, why do people pay more to watch men's sports than women's sports? For all of Caitlin Clark's feats on the basketball court, breaking all-time scoring records, taking the Iowa Hawkeyes to 2 national championships, and getting the Indiana Fever to the Wnba Playoffs, what might be more impressive is the attention she's captured, and the sheer amount of people who want to see her play, and are willing to pay top dollar to watch her dish dazzling assists and launch three-point daggers from the logo. In her rookie season, Clark helped the Fever achieve the best attendance in the league, over 17,000 people per game, a 265% increase over last season, and their televised games regularly reached over 1 million viewers per contest. Scalpers were selling tickets outside the arena. At one point in the season, they were asking $250 for a ticket that usually went for under $100, while some secondary market sellers were looking for up to $9,000, San reported. Clark's emergence alongside a new generation of exciting rookies and ultra-talented, already established veterans has created momentum for women's basketball and more generally women's sports. Mainly, people are finally willing to pay more to see women's basketball. That raises the question, why weren't they already? Why have women's sports historically been less popular? At the heart of this question is a pretty simple answer. Men have had decades-long head starts when it comes to sports and professional sporting leagues. To put it in perspective, women were allowed to compete in the 1900 Olympics in 5 sports. It wasn't until the 2012 London Olympics that women competed in all of the sports that the men were. Similarly, in the US, experts specifically point to Title X, the federal law that bans gender discrimination at schools receiving federal aid, and its passing in 1972 as a watershed moment for gender equality in sports. Before that, US schools had no obligation to provide the same athletic opportunities to girls that they did for boys. It broke down existing barriers to entry, allowing women not only to compete, but also receive equal financial opportunity tied to sports, e.g., college scholarships. But when Title X solidified women's rights into law and protected them from discrimination, the Wnba was already over 20 years old. The easy way to think about it is to look at the overall lack of investment. Lindsay Darvin, an assistant professor at Syracuse University, told me. Darvin studies women's sports and gender equity in the intercollegiate and professional sports industry. She said that the Wnba and any other major sports league have had decades upon decades of resources, both external and internal, infused into them. Women's leagues are, relatively speaking, still so young and don't yet gather the same kind of attention. The amount of investment that's been put into the Wnba, it dwarfs what's been put into the Wnba, Darvin said. The Wnba was founded in 1996, almost 30 years ago. The same number of years on the Wnba timeline would be the late 70s, when the league was finally established and on the verge of a massive leap in popularity. While the Wnba is growing, it hasn't seen the same kind of trajectory, at least not yet. It took decades for teams like the Lakers, Yankees, Arsenal, Bruins, and Packers to become lucrative sports franchises that generate millions in revenue each year and play arenas and stadiums in front of thousands of people. Some professional leagues count revenue in the tens of billions of dollars. Decades of investment, money, advertising, promotion, television deals, sponsorships, etc. have turned teams and leagues into brand names. That's what you're paying for when you're purchasing a ticket. That's also why a men's pro sports ticket is usually going to be more expensive than a women's. How does marketing factor into it? The last couple of years in women's college basketball have shown us that women's sports can challenge men's in popularity. Like right now, at the 2024 Final Four, tickets for the women's tickets on the secondary market were going double for the price of the men's games. The Caitlin Clark effect was in full motion, and the ratings for Clark and her cohort were at an all-time high. Clark's last 2 games were the most watched in history, averaging close to 14 million and, as The Athletic reported, eclipsed men's sporting events like every World Series since 2019, every Wnba Finals game since 2017, and every Daytona 500 since 2006. As a researcher, I don't like to say the phrase that the stars align, because that just seems so kind of out there. But the stars aligning is a piece of it. And that's what happened, right? Darwin said, noting that Clark's skill and flashy, appealing game, the success of the Iowa basketball team, and Clark's marketability and her team's underdog store.